Just let me know when to go ahead.
So you can start.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone. This is Sandeep Hegde. I welcome you all on behalf of Center for Advanced Studies in Policy Research. This has been a beautiful evening, at least in Sangli, where am I situated right now. And we are also having a very beautiful topic in a way. We have been discussing on economics and how bad it has been all the time for last couple of weeks. But today we would discuss how bad it is about the environment. And we have chosen this heavy topic, deconstructing notions of development, ecology, economy, and policy in the wake of COVID-19. And we are fortunate to have two eminent people who have been working in this field for almost last 2 decades. Uh, Ketaki Ghate and Mansi Karandikar with us. They are founders and managing partners at Oikos for Ecological Services. I would just give a brief introduction of both of them and quickly hand over to them. Post discussion, we can have a couple of questions. So, about Ketki Ghate, she's a double graduate from Chalisgaon. She came to Pune for pursuing a course in ecology. She's been passionate about this particular topic and with working with nature. She's trustee Ecological Society Pune and working as core team and faculty for the subjects like landscape ecology, eco perspective in watershed management, alternative livelihood systems like forest food, sacred groves, urban ecology, etc. She's ex-member of Pune Tree Authority at Pune Municipal Corporation. She's member of JFMC Pune and she's working as a visiting faculty at an architecture institute, BNCA, situated in Pune. Manasi Karandikar, she's an engineer and engineer turned into an environmentalist. She's having a keen eye for wildlife and nature. She's pursued masters in environmental sciences post her engineering. She's also a trustee at Ecological Society Pune and has been working as core team and faculty for the subjects like restoration techniques, etc. She's working with Grama Mangal, local NGO, to design educational tools for dovetailing ecological perspective in school education. She's been member of HLMC Mathiran during 2012 and 14. So without any further ado, I just request both of them to take it over from here and start with the deliberation. Ketki, Manasi, over to you. I think you may have to unmute yourself. I believe you have done it.
Yeah, now it's fine.
Yeah, so yeah, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so good evening, all of you.
Hello. It's really a pleasure to be here on a very different platform because we always talk on the platforms where all environmentalists and nature lovers are there. So it's really nice to interact on this platform for sure. So without wasting any time, I'll just share my screen. You need to allow me, Sandeep, to share my screen. Normally, actually, we love to get introduced to participants, but I think there are too many. But normally, we love to interact first and then start the interaction. But I think in such platforms, always you are interacting with many windows with the names. That's it. But would love to see actually faces. But that's, I think, some kind of constraint is there. Yeah. So did you allow me? Hello, Sandeep. Can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am. I'm just allowing you. Just give me a second, ma'am.
Yeah, so till the time the screen is getting shared, just to tell a little briefly that both of us, we founded this Oikos back in 2002, and we basically work in ecological restoration of lands. So this is about degradation of lands, In simple languages, we try to create forest on degraded lands, invite biodiversity, create habitats, make ecological landscaping. Then we are also very passionate about native plants. Yeah, we have also got a nursery for native plants, and a few publications are also there on our website. You can check our website and the kind of work that we're doing. You can write to us. We also do many things just to create awareness about nature and its various components. Yeah, what all things you can do at your level as a citizen. So such kind of publications are also recently published during this lockdown. You can definitely have a look at it. So are we able to share the screen now? Yeah, good. So yeah, so maybe both of us will talk at around maybe for 40 minutes, and then 45 minutes later we can take some questions and try to end the sessions by 6:30. Yeah, so today's topic, if we could just even yeah, so today's topic is deconstructing notions of development, ecology, economy, and policy in the wake of COVID-19. So, though the title seems very long, but we are mainly going to talk about why it is really necessary we conserve ecology. And this COVID-19 is definitely teaching us a lesson that it's high time we look at our policy and economy in a different way and have some kind of alternative way to maybe shape our development or channelize our development, wherein all issues for human beings as well as non-human beings are addressed. Yeah, and so that we go towards holistic kind of development, which is missing right now. So why COVID-19 is a
May I just intervene for a second? I was muted by the host for last couple of minutes, so I couldn't answer some of your questions that you posed at me. So please be frank and let it be a casual discussion, and please feel free to have a talk the way you want it to be. And we just want to learn from this particular discussion of yours, and let it be just your way. We have gone through some of your videos that you have put on YouTube and Facebook. They are excellent, and let it be. I think that it has some flavor of storytelling, and that makes it more intriguing. So let it be that way. We are not very much worried about it should be in a particular pattern or something like that. Yeah.
No, don't worry, it won't be like that. Because
Sure.
actually, we are not professors or teachers by profession. We're just trying to share our experience. That's it.
Yeah. So professors have to take that with a pinch of salt if anyone is out there. Yeah, please continue.
So, anyways, yeah. So COVID-19 definitely is a landmark event, but so this is not first time in the history. So for sure, but why it sounds like almost it is happening for the first time, such a kind of big event, is just because not even the death rate, but the fear and the changes that are happening in our life. Yeah, very interestingly, fear is spreading too fast than virus. Yeah, and normal death rate means why this particular slide is there, just to make ourselves a little comfortable, that let's not be very much too worried about this particular event. Even there has been too many events in the history which has killed so many people than COVID-19. The rate is really very minuscule. So the normal death rate, no one is comparing normal death rate to this COVID-19 death rate as of today. So normal death rate is average 7.7 per thousand. Yeah, so almost there are 250,000 people or 150,000 people dying every day in the globe. But we are not talking about that. We are no way comparing COVID death rate to that. But just because we are in this era of globalization, there are too many expectations that we are not obviously that ready to die. The kind of facilities that we have around us, I think just because of that, there is this great fear that this SARS-CoV-2 will attack me and there may not be anything that I can do. So just because of this globalization, media and connectedness, this fear is increasing. But for sure, implications of this event is very bad across various human societies, and we'll talk about this effects little later. But this is the perfect time, we think, that we need to introspect on our concepts of development, economy, and simply our living. Yeah, the way we live, the way we are channelizing our development, really need to look at it. Why? That's why this entire presentation is there. So the first question that we would like to raise is, are humans part of nature? So obviously many of you would say, what is that question is? So of course humans are part of nature. We are um, just like other animals which are there in the our surroundings or in natural ecosystems. So we are most successful species. We are called as Homo sapiens sapiens. So sapiens is a Latin word meaning wise. Yeah? In Marathi we call it as जाणीवेची जाणीव असणारा प्राणी. So we have named ourselves that we are wise, but it doesn't seem to be actually. So we are at apex. We have achieved this position through technological progress. But if you look at all other apex species like tiger and leopards, they have achieved their apex species through process of evolution. Like if you remember in school days, we used to learn that pyramid in which producers are there, then secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, and then ultimately apex species is there. But if you achieve that particular position through this process of evolution, you definitely have a grace. The kind of glamour this other wild species have got, humans didn't have, for sure, definitely. So what we're doing, once we have reached this apex state, we have been using natural resources to achieve development since ancient times. Means, of course, this is not new. Means man is normally described in 4 stages. Means few lakhs, 20 lakhs, 25 years ago, he was in hunting gathering state. Then he became pastoralist. Then he became agriculturist, and now it's the era of this modern human beings. So during all this, whatever changes or the progress or development, whatever you call it as, we've been using natural resources continuously. But what is the difference in all these earlier 3 stages and this modern human beings is the rate and scale in which we have used or extracted these resources is increasing. It has increased multifold during this industrialization. Yeah. So definitely all this extraction is happening just to get comforts for maximum people. Yeah? But these comforts are at the cost of degradation of nature and denying quality life to many local communities. We are not aware of that. We always just aspire to just consume more and just progress and develop. But what is happening due to all of it, all of this, that all this changes or degradation is nature is booming back to us in the form of say local pollution to global scale changes. So what we're doing with this kind of industrialization, we are crossing the boundaries. So researchers and scientists, they have defined 9 planetary boundaries. Let's look at it a little quickly. So the first is ozone layer depletion. Yeah? Because we have done industrialization and we have emitted so much of harmful gases like chlorofluorocarbons, it has made hole in the ozone layer, which is almost like a protective cover to the earth, and then ultraviolet rays started reaching to the earth, and n number of problems happened in local communities. So obviously, but it's a very good example. I always feel that all nations came together, then we decided that we need to work on our appliances, and so that we don't emit such kind of harmful gases. And then over last decade, 2 decades, we could just mitigate that ozone layer. Yeah. But definitely what has happened means there is so many things that we can learn just from this particular event of ozone layer depletion and mitigation of it, that we always reach this tipping point. Yeah. We cross that boundary and then learn, oh, this is very bad things which is happening to human beings and non-human beings, and then we learn. So what we are saying, that when there are few people on the earth which are anyways recognizing this boundary and what ill effects that is going to cause us, keep aside all non-human beings and the biodiversity and everything, but this is bad for us. So we need to wake up. Otherwise what is happening, we are just being like shakes chili. We're sitting on the same branch and cutting it. So we need to wake up and definitely be within our planetary boundaries while you achieve some kind of progress or development. Climate change, another very big time, or say no one is denying that. Almost many people on the earth now are agreeing to this, that all the activities of human beings are changing the climate. Yeah. So there are people who are against it also, but no one can deny local level changes. When you have industry and when you have effluent going into the river, you can see polluted river and fishes dying. So definitely climate is changing definitely at local level, and it is then proliferating at global level. Chemical pollution, the same thing, biodiversity loss, ocean acidification, freshwater consumption, and all this is altering global hydrological cycles. That's a most risky thing that we are doing. So if you see, all these global cycles are very important, and they are almost like life regulating cycles. So this earth has taken almost 450 crores of years to shape the atmosphere and the cycles in which human beings can breathe and live and make use of all these resources to just for ourselves. So this earth or all these boundaries, they're offering services and goods for human beings also. But we're just denying that, and we just going towards that tipping point. So that's why all these things are very important to be within all these 9 planetary boundaries, and nitrogen, phosphorus flow, atmospheric aerosol loading. Means if there are anyone from Delhi, they know the best threat of this aerosol loading in the atmosphere. So we've seen in the news also. And the last is land use change. This could be the first actually. Just because of land use change at local level, many things are happening at a global level. So just this land use change is exactly the source of COVID-19. How? So let's look at the little bit of biology and evolution of the SARS-CoV-2, and then again let's go back to ecology and how both these things are connected. So this COVID-19 is a short form of coronavirus 2019, which is again just come up from this SARS-CoV coronavirus 2. Yeah, so earlier there were coronavirus 1 was also there. Uh, so the point is, most of these viruses, they're zoonotic. Means 60% of them, they come from animals. That's why they are called as zoonotic. And again, 72% of these come from wild animals. So this is a very important statement that anyway we'll look at it in the next slide again. So how does it you enter human cells? So as you see in this particular picture, there are many spikes. So which gives it an appearance of sun's corona. That's why it is named corona. So all these are protein materials, and they fit into our human cell, then they enter, and this is just a protein or bilipid cover, and inside that RNAs are there. It's very simple. सजीव आणि निर्जीवाच्या सीमारेषेवरचा असा जीव याला म्हणतात. So, but because it reproduces and there are many other characteristics, that's why it fits into Sajiv or say living creature. Then it evolves. What happens within human body, that it mutates, means any animal, when it copies, when the copies are made, that time there is a mutation which happens, and during that mutation, extreme virulent to less virulent, some such kind of strains uh, evolve, yeah, naturally, and few of them become infectious. Yeah? So this infectious again is a very important term we'll look at in the next slide. So just because of these less virulent strains, they go in the population, and because of them, you don't get very sick. Means definitely you get little symptoms, but sometimes there could be asymptomatic carriers also. So just because of that, then your herd immunity starts increasing, and then slowly that virus disappears, or its power slowly goes off, or it becomes less virulent, so that we don't become sick. So that the same thing is done when you manufacture vaccine. Yeah? So this is overall what you can say.
I think there is some network issue. We have lost voice. Hello? We would have to wait for a couple of moments. We have asked her to log out and then try logging in again.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir. They had a power cut at that place. They just called me.
Oh,
Yeah, so they are trying to log in within next 5 to 10
so they
minutes.
are. Yeah. I would request everyone to please wait for a while. So we can't help it. They are in Pune, and there is some power cut out there.
Uh,
I,
this is
I'm not
no
sure whether it is. Yeah.
time till they come on. Can we have some discussion?
Sure. Please start with some discussion. We would love to have it.
Yes.
I'm not nowhere nearby to environment, so I please don't ask any questions to me regarding ecology or something. If you can
No,
tell us, yeah, please go ahead.
no. I'm Mukund, and
Yeah. Hello, sir.
I'm working professional in the manufacturing industry. However, in the last 10 years, I have been dedicated to sustainable life or sustainable development.
Okay.
And last 60 days, I have been mulling over this, that how this one virus has made mankind to respond in a way which last 30 years scientists have not been able to do,
Right.
especially related to climate change. Uh, in
The,
that, uh, we have been trying to reduce the carbon emissions and have development which is called sustainable development or carbon neutral development. But in spite of many lectures, we could never achieve it even after signing of Paris Agreement. But
Hi,
this is,
we could log in again.
We're back.
yeah.
yeah,
Can you
okay.
hear?
So
Yeah.
we took some liberty to have our own discussion, and sir has been kind enough. So yeah,
That's
please.
fine.
Yeah, we can start with your presentation, and then perhaps we can discuss.
Yeah. So I'll just share my screen.
Yeah. Is it raining out there in Pune?
No, actually,
It's
it
totally
is.
sunny.
Can you see now?
Yeah. It's visible.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have seen this planetary boundaries. Then source of COVID. We have also looked at. So yeah. Okay. So we were here. So we've seen the biology and evolution of this source. Just a minute. So why do viruses become infectious? That is something that we need to understand, because unless and until we understand this connection in between virus and ecology, we won't be able to have right kind of solutions. So the kind of landscape that you see, this is exactly the reason why there is some kind of infectious viruses that emerge. How do they emerge? So there are certain reservoir species, as you see in this particular slide. There is a forest in one half, and another half there is this mine. So this particular photograph is from Chandrapur area, and all these wild species in this forest, they are called as reservoir species because there are many kinds of viruses within their body, and there is a co-evolution of viruses. Means these viruses are not making this reservoir species ill or sick, yeah, but there is a spillover to this mediator to humans. Why this spillover happens means they jump from this original or reservoir species to some other species. Why does that happen? Exactly due to disruption of ecosystem, because change in conditions is there. As you see, there is this new condition is created in this forested landscape, and there is then chance for this virus to spill over. So just to give you a simple example, uh, if outer environment changes, inner environment also changes. Say for example, there is a dry season and all of a sudden there is very much cold and we start sneezing. That's the reaction from our body and the changes which happen inside our body. Exactly the same thing happens within that outer environment and also inner environment, and that gives a chance for spillover of viruses. Now this chance even increases in presence of monoculture. Yeah, monoculture is culture of single species. Mono is single. So whenever there is this new host who is in good number, so this number is very important term. The maximum number of same species is present in any such area, there are chance for virus to mutate that many times. Yeah, so that single species, more mutations, and then just because of more mutations there is chance within that virus that few of the viruses become infectious strains. Yeah, so this just happens because of this new condition in this entire scenario. Now there is this guess that this novel corona has come from one cave bat in Yunnan, yeah, near Wuhan, and but 94% of the genome matches with this SARS-CoV-2, but 6% doesn't match. So that's how scientists are now concluding that that 6% match might have happened within the mediator, maybe like pangolin or pig, and then it has jumped to human beings. But that's what means we are increasing chances when we disrupt ecology. And intact ecology and biodiversity creates many barriers for its prey. Means imagine if this forest is there and there are many different species are there. So the virus is not every time able to spread or mutate in the same that many species. Those many barriers are there. So this number is very important, that monoculture, the single host in good number, if it is provided in terms of maybe human beings, or it could be piggery, or it could be monoculture of plant species, this viruses tend to mutate more and then infectious strains arrive. So why there is this importance of maintaining ecology? That again, as I said earlier, outer environment changes inner environment. So there is enough research establishing importance of this diversity and ecology. So biodiversity and ecology basically maintains immunity. How does that happen? So there are this kind of hypotheses like hygiene hypothesis, or say old friends hypothesis and biodiversity hypothesis. What all these hypotheses say, that if at all you have good biodiversity and intact ecology around you, you tend to co-evolve with the viruses for a longer period of time. And just because there is this co-evolution of viruses, that virus doesn't kill us and we also doesn't kill that virus. So just because of that, we become friends with them. That's what exactly happens in presence of biodiversity and ecology. Coming to hygiene. So just because of we are now maintaining too much of hygiene, this basic hygiene definitely is needed. Normal swachhata garejechi ahe. But many times we go to an extreme aim. And also along with this hygiene, instant treatments like antibiotics, that is also decreasing the immunity. And in presence of biodiversity, your immunity is always maintained. Yeah, so many research articles are there. So one case study I would like to share is from Poland. So back in 2004, when Poland became UN member, that time they just introduced various agricultural policies. And while so during this 2003 to 2012, many